I've come to the executive decision that this video is not going to be a sad video because the fact that I went and I got help should be celebrated, and if you're thinking about going and getting help, it should be something that's celebrated. Howdy y'all, what's up? It's Callista. If you didn't know, I stated it in a previous video, but I spent my summer in a mental hospital. Yeah, I did. I have a mental disorder called OCD. It's something I've had since I was 10 years old. I've gotten a lot of questions about OCD, so I'm gonna read you guys the textbook definition of what OCD is. Obsessive compulsive disorder is characterized by unreasonable thoughts and fears, obsessions that lead to compulsive behaviors. The only way I can describe OCD is like living with a bully in your mind that's constantly nagging you. A lot of people, when they think of OCD, they think of like cleaning and like, oh my gosh, like I have to have everything organized. Like if y'all saw my room is like disgusting. Like I'm not a clean freak. There's actually 7 different types of forms of OCD. I have about 3 to 4 different forms of OCD. So I'm not dealing with just one form, I'm dealing with 3 to 4 forms of it. And the way that I deal with my OCD is I fight OCD with OCD. It's really complicated because the only way I fix one OCD is with another form of OCD. I'm gonna leave a link to a video in the description box that shows you very accurately kind of what living with OCD is like for those of y'all who are still curious. So in May, I was admitted to a mental health hospital for OCD and depression. I did an outpatient program, so that means that I didn't live there. I would just spend my days there. Just a little disclaimer, first off, this is just my program. I thought it would be interesting to do a video like this because when I was going through it, I looked up Reddit forums, I looked up YouTube videos, I looked up Google, and I was trying to find, you know, what it's like going and admitting yourself into a mental health hospital, and I could find nothing. Like there were no videos on it, and I felt so alone and so scared. I feel like if I have a following, I can also advocate for something that's important to me, and what's important to me is mental health because it's affected me so much, and I know a lot of you guys are young and deal with it, and I want to be there to help you guys through some of the hardest times of my life because I remember when I was 14 and dealing with depression and I felt so alone, the YouTubers that opened up about their depression were the ones that I really related to, and I was really appreciative of that. So if I can be that for somebody else, I'm going to. And that's why I choose to be open about my mental health. It's not the easiest thing for me. It's not something that I'm like, oh my gosh, let's talk about, but I know that it's helped me a lot, and I feel like I'm gonna do that for somebody else. So that's why I choose to open up about it. Secondly, every program's different. This is just my personal program. This is a program for OCD. Every hospital is going to be different. Every program is going to be different. This is just what my program is like. I'm not saying this is what every program is like. This is just what my program was like. So with that being said, let's just get into it. So 9 a.m., this is when we started every single morning. So we would meet in the group room, and you would meet like your therapist there, and then there were also behavioral coaches, and there was a whiteboard, and our therapist would write on the whiteboard what we would be doing at every hour. So usually it was at 9 a.m. you either did an exposure or you went to therapy. I'm just gonna say on this typical day I went to therapy at 9 a.m. I would go to therapy at 9 a.m. It was all dandy and great. I would just talk about my issues. It was usually a lot about like what your obsessions are. Like for example, I can't talk about my obsessions. It freaks me out too much to this day. See, I try to be as open as I can with you guys, but there's still like, it's still something I'm prominently working through, and so therefore it's like not the easiest sometimes. Sometimes we would do an exposure with a therapist, which I'll explain what an exposure is in the next hour. Making a plan of what I was doing that day, checking in on how I was doing that day, and yeah, that's kind of what like 9 a.m. usually consisted of. 10 a.m. is where the fun starts, and when I say fun, I mean like freaking sucks, okay? 10 a.m. I would usually meet with a behavioral therapist, which a behavioral therapist is somebody that you are doing exposures with. An exposure is basically exposing you to something you're scared of. For example, I'll tell you guys. So I would have to take showers a lot at the program. I have repetition OCD, which means I do things over and over again. I also have a form of like counting OCD. I have to do things in 4s and 2s, but I can't do 4 and then 2 because it equals 6, and that doesn't, I don't like the number 6. So I have to do things 4 plus 4, which equals 8. 8's a safe number to me. It probably doesn't make sense to you, but it makes sense to me. So therefore, if I messed up my counting or I was thinking the wrong thing, then I'd have to redo it over again. So to take a shower would take me so long. Like I would take like an 45-minute shower because I just would keep redoing everything, and I would be like crying in the shower because I just couldn't get out because I was thinking the wrong thing and I just couldn't do it. I would go into the shower, and then they would sit outside the bathroom and like get put on a timer for like 5 minutes, and I would have to take a shower in 5 minutes and be done. And if the timer went off at 5 and I was still in there and I didn't shampoo everything off, I would have to still get out. So that's kind of what an exposure would be at like 10 a.m. for me. I'd usually have to take a shower, or I would have to go eat because I was really scared of food because I convinced myself that I'm like allergic to everything. Yeah, it kind of sucked. Doing exposures aren't fun because you're so freaked out, and then like your exposure coach is like kind of like feeding into the fear, being like, well, you know, that could happen, like like you could have an allergic reaction, like you don't know, because like they're not supposed to feed into your fears. So they're like, yeah, you could have an allergic reaction. So I'm just sitting there like freaking out, and they're like feeding into it, which I know what they're doing, but it doesn't help. I don't know if this video makes sense, but I'm trying to make it make sense. OCD as a whole doesn't make sense, but I'm trying really hard to explain it to y'all. 11 o'clock was group hour, so we would have group therapy at 11. 11 o'clock was probably like my favorite time, just because I really liked socializing and talking to everybody. I don't know, it just makes you feel less alone. Because for this program, I had never met anybody else who had OCD, so I felt really alone. Like going to the program, a lot of like the reasons that I felt really depressed, no, that's a lie. One of the major things in my depression was that I felt really alone. I felt like I was the only one dealing with it, and the fact that I met other people that had it made me feel like a lot less alone. And they were like cool people too. Like I was like, yo, y'all, like let's be friends. I'm still friends with the people in my group to this day. I'm not gonna go into group meetings because it was, you know, everybody else's business, and that's not my story to tell. So like a different therapist would run group meetings every single day. So it was always fun to like see what the other therapist, not, I mean, I say fun, but like, you know, but it was always interesting to like see the other therapists. And I don't know, you grow a bond with like the therapist. So like, I don't know, I had different relationships with different therapists, and there was like this one that I really thought was like funny and cool, and we always like bounced off each other's like wit and stuff. He would always like make fun of me for all my compulsions, and I was like, that's so mean, but like I get it, it's ridiculous what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know, it was just like always fun to like see the other therapist and like everybody in the program, because it's like a huge team effort. It's a team effort, so like when everybody gets together and like you're all going through this together and you're all trying to work through this together, it's like, I don't know, it's very wholesome, I guess, to say, when you guys are all together working through it. 12 o'clock, this was the time for another exposure. Sometimes I had to go shopping because I couldn't go shopping anymore because colors of things freaked me out, patterns of things freaked me out. I wouldn't buy things because of the prices, like not because they were too high or too expensive, but because of the numbers and the prices. Everything really bothered me, like if I'm being completely honest, like everything really bothered me. Sometimes I had to go eat. I would get like a smoothie with peanut butter in it for lunch. That sucked. Now I like peanut butter, but at the time it sucked because I was convinced that I was having an allergic reaction and I needed to go next door to the actual physical health hospital, but I wouldn't be allowed to go. Sometimes I would get to leave early, and when I got to leave early, I was always really excited because I got to beat traffic, and I was like, yes. The work doesn't stop when you leave. It's just the beginning of the day, because they always say to us, when you're in an outpatient program, they always say like it doesn't matter if you're going to go home and just go back to compulsing. Because, you know, when you're in the program, you're kind of in this like shelter, right, where you have people encouraging you and you have like a whole team of people that get it. But then when you go back out and you're in like, you know, with other people that don't get it, and it's like your actual life, like, you know, you're with all these people and you're like in like your actual settings, and it's easy to compulse, and it doesn't, like, you have to try to stop compulsing, because after the program your life is going to go back to normal, and you're not going to have all these people like coaching you and like telling you and like helping you and everything. So yeah, I think that's where I was going with that statement, but I don't really know. I think checking into a mental health hospital was the best thing I ever did for myself. I really needed that summer to get my life back on track, because I was so like not in a good place that I really needed the help. If you guys have any more questions, you can leave them in the comments and I'll answer them. I'm always here if you guys want to talk. The comment section is an open forum and we can all be there for each other. But I love you guys so much. Yeah, I don't know, I love you guys so much. I really appreciate all of y'all's really sweet comments that you guys have been leaving. They really mean so much to me. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and bye guys.